Are you struggling with finishing your tracks? Let's be really honest here, we all do. I've been making music for more than 8 years and I still struggle with that sometimes, so that's normal. In this video, I will talk about and I will teach you the most important skill that will help you to make more music, finish more tracks, and do it faster. And what is this skill about? It is about creating, the ability to create a variation in your tracks. It is a skill on its own, and in this video, I'm gonna share 5 creative ways how you can add variation to your tracks. And what's beautiful about this method is that you can combine any of these 5 techniques together and create infinite amounts of variation in your tracks. And before I share those techniques and tips, I will show you a part of my track and show you how I implemented those creative techniques and share some insights that I learned from making my last track. So let's listen to the track and then dive deep into the tutorial. So as you can hear, it's just a little part of the whole track, and I will show you a lot of really hot stuff today. Okay, so for those of you who are new to the channel, my name is Vlad and I create superstar music producers. If you need some help with your music, I do coaching, so feel free to check the links down below. Feel free to book a call with me and I would love to have a conversation and help you with your music. And without further talking, let's get started with the video. Alright, as I said in the beginning of this video, the most important skill for finishing tracks is the ability to create variation in your track. And I want to show you one of the first versions of the same track, just so you can understand my thinking process and implement those techniques, strategies in your music. So I had this main lead sound and it's basically like all I had. It was all I had really. And I had to be creative and create variation because like that was all I had, right? And if you just have one loop throughout the whole track, it's obviously going to be really boring. So I had to be creative, again, as I said. And let me talk about the ideas. I'm going to share 5 ways how you can create variation in your tracks. So we're going to talk about rhythm variation. We're going to talk about layering, timbral variation, silence, variation with silence, and spatial variation. So number 1, rhythm variation. Just by changing the rhythm, you can change the mood and the energy of the track. So simple, but powerful. So what I'm going to show you here is going to be a little section. If you listen to, first without the kick and the bass, if you listen to this lead sound and try to understand how the rhythm changes the mood and how the rhythm changes the energy, like how the track feels, because that's one of the most important things, right? How does the track feel? So that's number 1, and this is the second variation. It's really different, has different energy, different like taste, flavor, like it's so different. And when we play this together with the kick and the bass and the drums, and then if we add a little bit of automation on top, right? It's so different and you can do so much with the rhythm. Let me show you another illustration. By changing the rhythm, you are changing the energy in the track and you are changing the emotion in the track, right? So we can go from something something really subtle, something really gentle, to something like really aggressive, like full on, and so on. So this illustration, it really shows you what you can do just with the rhythm variation. And I'm going to show you some examples from the track. So in the first one, it's just going to be like the basic lead sound, right? So let's go here. Okay, let me show you the first one. So I layered that with a different sound. I'll talk about layering in the next slide, but it's essentially it is the same rhythm but with longer notes, and you can see how much different the track now feels, right? It's just different preset, different sound, same rhythm, completely different feeling. I'm still showing you this even though like it's a different sound, because the notes are different, so like they get a little bit longer. So by extending the length of the note, you can do so much, right? And if you go through the whole track, right, you can see that you can do so much variation with it. Let's say I now have this melody, which is kind of similar, but a little bit different to the first one. And that goes together with the ARP sound. And if I change the rhythm a little bit, even like changing the length of the notes, I would count as changing the rhythm as well, right? So we can do like, let's say we'll do all of them longer. Like this. You can see how simple it is to implement this technique, but at the same time, it does so much to the track. So make sure you use that in your tracks. And let me see if I can show you some more examples. Okay, let's talk about tip number 2, which is layering. You can simply layer or combine layering with different variation techniques. Imagine same thing as rhythmic variation, but now add layering. You can combine any variation technique with any variation technique. So let's talk a little bit more about this. Layering is a very flexible variation technique. You can literally add anything to the sound. There are infinite variations for this. All you have to understand is what you want to add, but it's not that you need or must do that. You can just layer, have fun, and see the final result. That's how I do it. So before we jump into the project, I gave you some examples here. So we can do rhythmic layering, we can change the timbre, add power to the sound, add emotion with different layers, spatial, add more depth to the sound. So let's talk about specific examples. So layering example. Let me play you this part of the track, and then I will explain how I go about layering in this section. So originally, I should have had this, right? And just see how that sounds in the context of the track. So it sounds pretty cool. It sounds cool because I worked on this track for a bit, but why would you give away all the information right away, right? So we can add same melody, but use a different rhythm and a different timbre. And here we use 2 layers to add power and impact. Again, I'm doing this to change the energy. So we have the first sound, which sounds like this. That's one part of the impact, and that's the first one, which is really nice. And together, what is happening here is the spatial layering, right? We can add more depth to the sound. So we are changing emotion, we are changing timbre, Rhythmic, all that stuff, right? So I'm just trying to be like really, really visual. So I silenced the original layer, and then by adding a couple more elements, adding a bit more space, I'm creating curiosity. I'm not giving away all the sounds like right away. Here's another example of layering. I do have a cello, an organic instrument, and I do have the synth here. And with the synth, it sounds cool, but sometimes you just want to spice it up a little bit. So we can do like this. With the cello, it just adds that cherry on the top. It's just a little bit more interesting. It's almost inaudible, but when you know that it's there, like when you're going to be listening to the track more, you will notice those little changes, and that's what differentiates a pro track from an amateur track. Okay, let's talk about another layering example. So if we go to the next section of the drop, you can see here that I originally planned to use a little bit more layering, but I decided to silence it, right? So if you play together, this is how it would sound, but I decided that I don't want to have this these two instruments playing. Maybe not like for this drop. And if we listen to the whole thing, try paying attention to how the energy, how the flow of the track changes. Like layering changes the whole track, right? But in this part of the track, I decided that I want to go a bit more gentle. I want to go a bit more quiet. So this is why I silenced brass instrument, right? And when it comes to layering, there are like really infinite ways to combine this stuff. So we have, let's say this one and this one. Listen to how they sound in the context of the track. So there's one really long sound and one really short sound. And they go together right like this, supporting each other, right? The most important thing is to combine sounds that go well together. Okay, let me show you another example. This time we're going to be discussing the call and response. So if you look at this diagram, you can see we have two layers playing the same rhythm, kind of like asking a question. And then after that, there's another sound kicking in that resolves the question, like resolves the loop. And let me show that to you. Right, you can see how nice it fits at the end. So this is the call and this is the response. Just one more time, but now solo. Really, really nice, right? You see how you can do this. Like it's really simple. It's not gonna take a lot of effort. You just have to be creative. You have to be able to solve creative problems. That's like essentially creating variation is creative a problem solution. Okay, so we're done with layering. Let's talk about... All right, guys. I was editing this video, and when I recorded the whole thing, I realized that it's pretty long. So I'm going to split that into 2-3 parts, and the rest we're going to discuss in the next video. So it's like a little bit easier to consume, and then I'll make a little playlist so you can watch this in a more comfortable way. So I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you guys in the next video tomorrow. The video is coming tomorrow, I promise.